that pertains our well-being, our welfare, and most definitely we've got a round peg and around the hole to do justice to what we are bringing to the table this lovely Tuesday morning. We are discussing something very, very important, Emmanuel.
Yes, this morning we are looking at the withdrawal of the United States from the World Health Organization (WHO), and this morning we are considering the implications for African countries, Nigeria and other African countries. So these are what we're considering this morning.
Looking at the withdrawal of these and the United States and its implication on Africans and Nigeria to be specific. That's lovely morning. The Trump administration's withdrawal of the United States from the World Health Organization is a decision that reverberates across global health, marking a significant juncture in the intersection of health and politics. I could remember Emmanuel when the man was actually campaigning. Sometimes one thing I know about Donald Trump is the man that walks the talk. During this first tenure, he was campaigning that there's going to be a wall, this Mexican wall, this and that, you understand?
Yes.
And there's a man that talks and does it, you understand? So this time around, he's saying that we're going into politics this time around, we're going into the health sector, and this and this.
And it is implementing them.
And he's implementing them because he said that there's going to be drastic changes in the US administration the moment it takes over that office. And that he started doing right from the 28th of January 2025. So for some, this move may appear to be the pinnacle of political interference in global health. However, some international observers said this is not the last we are going to see from Donald Trump. It is merely the opening act and what may likely befall Africa, and countries like Nigeria and many others lack the technological and manufacturing capacity to support a modern health system independently.
And the Abuja Declaration of 2001, which saw African leaders pledge to allocate at least 15% of the national budget to health, remains a haunting reminder of unfulfilled promises. Nigeria, the host of that declaration, has never come close to half of this target. Instead, the country's health sector still relies on foreign aid, even as inefficiencies and frivolous allocations and state budget. Global health thrives on mutual respect and shared responsibility.
And as the World Health Organization's largest single contributor, the United States provided 15.59% of its 2022 to 2023 biennial budget, amounting to $1.284 billion, significantly outpacing Germany's $856 million and the $830 million from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Notably, China, with a population above 1.4 billion, contributed a meager 0.4%, while Nigeria, often cited as a struggling health, contributed 0.44%, and the US withdrawal leaves a massive funding vacuum that will not be quickly filled, underscoring the US critical role in sustaining global health initiatives. Dear listeners, love the morning. What are the likely effects on our health sector? Looking at it, Emmanuel, you can imagine $1.284 billion. So, if $1.284 billion is being withdrawn from the World Health Organization, so what will be the likely consequences on developing countries? Because we have,
African countries.
yes, we have maybe types of countries now. We have developed countries, we have developing countries, and underdeveloped countries. But to shed more light on it this lovely morning, we've got a round peg and a round hole. A public affairs analyst is joining us, and he's already sitting in the studios this lovely morning. He's a quantity surveyor by profession, QS Ayoade Sorunke. Thank you sincerely for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Tope. Good morning, Emmanuel.
We're glad to have you this morning, Mr.
The
Ayoade.
pleasure is mine.
Now, what about the personality of Donald Trump? Let us start from there. In our introduction the other time, Donald Trump, to me, what I can just say about him is a man that talks, that says something, and walks the talk. Now, as Donald Trump as a person, let us just discuss the US decision itself. That when he gets to that office, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And part of it is what he has started doing before we go into the health sector this morning.
Well, generally, if you look at many of the things that Donald Trump said he was going to do, I mean, from day one, he started signing a lot of executive orders to actually achieve some of those things. A number of those executive orders have been challenged even in the court of law as we speak. But I mean, some of them are scaling through. Even the ones that have been challenged, he's trying to push it through and ensure that they are being enforced. But the reality is that if you look at most of the executive orders that Donald Trump has signed or is proposing, they are majorly orders that is trying to kind of make America work for Americans. He's trying to probably put America in a state whereby many of their international interventions are actually, I mean, plowed back to the home front so that Americans can actually get an improved, because a lot of Americans are complaining. If you listen to a number of them, the world economy is affecting them also to a large extent. A lot of inflation, price hike, and a lot of things. Some of them are even, if you there are some videos that have gone viral. There are some of them complaining, buying things 3 times, at times 2 times what they used to buy it, and a lot of them are, I mean, putting these complaints in the public space to let people know that things are not as rosy as some of us might even think that they are. And these Americans expect that the government ought to come to their aid and make some of these things politics that America is also involved in. And some of these aids that they push out is actually for them to be able to have some foothold and control over some of the countries that, I mean, they use some of these things as international negotiating powers. The hate to Trump might look like, oh, we are just taking our resources and giving it to people who are not even serious about their own nation, as it were. But the reality is that when it comes to negotiating on the global space, those are the things that give the American country the edge over many of these other nations. I mean, the moment it spoke about pulling out of this World Health Organization issue, we saw the kind of international uproar that came with it, and people were, I mean, you mentioned the figures, well over 15% of the funding of WHO coming from America. If that is pulled out of WHO, how are they going to, I mean, meet up with all their obligations? So these are the challenges that is coming up. But if you look at the personality of Trump, he seems to know what he's doing and is going at it, and I can just praise him for that. I wish we could have leaders like that. He's not saying he's not going to play on the world space. He's only saying let's play fair. And I think that is what any leader should look for.
Okay, Mr. Ayoade, this morning, is Africa actually ready for this withdrawal by United States from the WHO? Are we ready as Africa?
Without due respect, I would rather want to twist that question and say, can we ever be ready? Can we ever be ready? Because, I mean, we have African nations, many of whom have gained their independence over 60 years, and they still have terrible, I mean, health
Challenges.
Terrible health infrastructures. How many African countries can boast that they are producing their pharmaceutical products by themselves? Those are the areas whereby you begin to look at how many African countries can produce some of these health equipment by themselves. We still majorly import all these things from these foreign countries. I think this is the way to go. Maybe what Trump is trying to tell us is that we need to grow up. So if we begin to grow up and we begin to see the need to look at homegrown solution to some of our health challenges, maybe some of these herbs that they use in these pharmaceutical products they are available here. I mean, they're available here. We have some of these tradomedical, putting some of these herbs together. We just need people who are well versed in these things to put it together in the right proportion and make it useful to us. And you'll be surprised we begin to export such. But are we even making researches? And when those researches are done to bring up this product, who funds those researches to ensure that they get into the pharmaceutical sector and they become, I mean, products that we can even export?
Now, Mr. Sorunke, let us take a look at health. You know, this World Health Organization believes that in one way or the other, the United States has been coming through for them. You know, in the area of HIV intervention, tuberculosis, malaria, and all And now it's more or less that these African countries and other countries depending on health organizations will be affected this time around. They should be doing at this point in time because Donald Trump believes in one policy that it is MAGA. When you hear MAGA, a lot of people will just look at it from the Nigerian context. But for Americans and for Donald Trump, he says making America great again. You understand that those countries should go back and put their house in order. Do you think Africans can survive this? And what do you think African leaders should be looking into to ensuring that their health system is actually functioning and also at par with other advanced countries?
The first 4 years of Donald Trump, he made it clear and he gave us his disposition. And his disposition then is not different from his disposition now.
No.
And interestingly, Americans are with him. For him to have won that election, you know that Americans are with him.
Against all odds.
Exactly. Americans are with him. So if Americans are with him, you don't expect him to do differently. If you are not looking at our own leaders, left to me, what we need to do, like I said, is for us to come back home and sit down and be serious with our health sector. This is definitely going to strike a very heavy blow on many African countries. But I think it's also a wake-up call for African countries to begin to now see what do we do to improve our health sector. We don't need to sit down. We are not beggars, for crying out loud. Some of the African countries are rich enough to provide their people whatever they need, even in terms of health. We export health personnel from Nigeria today. I've met doctors that will tell you that, Ayo, my problem is not that the hospital infrastructures are not there. But how would they bring somebody to my hospital? I know I can rescue and save this person's life. And before my very eye, this person is dying because I don't have the facilities, the equipment to be able to rescue this person. It's painful. The psychological effect of seeing your patient dying when you have what it takes to save that patient's life is enough for any doctor to pack his things and say, I'm leaving this country. Sure, you understand? It's not just about the pay. It's not just about the environment. I've been to some of our hospitals, you see doctors for 3, 4, 5 hours. They don't even have AC in their consulting room. And they are consulting 200, 250 patients in a day. And you want the same doctor to go back home and not fight his wife. No, it's just the reality. So when you look at all this, if we are exporting such, it means we have something that we can build on. And some of these guys are not guys that cannot put the right infrastructure in terms of health. What they need is the right funding. You just mentioned it. We signed an agreement that about 15% of our annual budget will go into the health sector. Have we even done 10% since we signed that agreement? We've not done 10%. And we want the health sector to improve. So it's a challenge. I think it will be a challenge to the African leaders so that all of us will now know that let's come back home and begin to pump what we need to pump into our health sector. And a healthy nation is the only nation that can be a wealthy nation. So,
Okay, now let's look at the contributions of African countries to the WHO. The amounts coming from Nigeria, likes of Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, and other big bags of Africa, into WHO. Now, looking at how much these countries have put into WHO, the contributions so far, like have our leaders in Africa been sincere with these amounts they claim to have put into the WHO?
Most times when we talk of national corruption or corruption within the country, we pretend as if there is no global corruption. Even these funds that we're talking about, how sincere. I'm talking about the fund that is pulled together even in WHO, how sincere is the distribution of these funds. Many of the aids that comes into Nigeria, we know where many of these aids find themselves back. They end up in some of the countries that are sending the aids. And America cannot deny this. You just roll out the figures. Even Nigeria and China is almost putting the same thing in WHO. So if Nigeria and China, with the population and the wealth of China,
0.4
are putting almost the same thing in WHO. So why should America be putting 15 point something percent? The greatest creditor of America is China. So if the greatest creditor of America is putting almost the same thing with Nigeria. And this America that is owing China so much is putting 15 point something percent. I think for any leader there should be some questions. So if you want to criticize Trump, these are the parameters you need to look at. That are you saying Trump is not thinking straight? In my own opinion, the guy is thinking straight and he's facing the reality. So why should a country that is richer than me be putting 0.04% and I'm putting 15% of the resources that I'm even borrowing? For any leader, it's a point that you need to halt and ask yourself, are we doing this right?
Okay. Now, before we open the phone lines this morning, I just want to ask a simple question now. That's the withdrawal of the US from the WHO now. Is it a blessing in disguise for Africans and Nigeria in particular?
It's a function of our reaction to it.
Hmm.
It is how we react to it that will decide whether it will be a blessing or a curse. If we choose to do it the same way we've been doing it in the past and not wake up to the reality and the responsibility that is throwing at us,
Okay.
I mean, we will remain where we are. But if we choose to take up the challenge and we do the needful, I mean, we've seen us do the needful in some other areas, and we do the needful in this area, and we'll turn it into a blessing. When the COVID-19 came, many of us thought Nigeria was going to be consumed, but we woke up to it. And I mean, Nigeria recorded a lot less than many other, I mean, a lot less casualty, I mean, than many advanced countries. So it means we can do it.
So even the COVID-19 even opened our eyes, apart from the health sectors, to a lot of
exactly.
And a lot of people are becoming billionaires right now as a result of the
COVID-19.
You understand? Because in different areas we were actually touched.
Mm.
Now, still on this health now, what do you think about these decision by the federal government? As of yesterday, there was an update that about 28,000 staff from that are being funded as a result of the proceeds from the World Health Organization, the USAID, and all sorts will now be bankrolled possibly by the federal government this time around to put them on their net. Is it not another expenses in another direction where when we are supposed to be looking at the infrastructure that should help secure lives at the health institutions in our dear country?
I don't want to see it that way. I want to see it from the perspective of that is an area that we also need to take care of. There are various other areas. For example, if you have to kill, 10 birds, and you have killed 2, you have started.
Mm.
So let's see it from that point of view. If they are saying now we are taking up that responsibility that US aid used to take care of, why should we not commend them for doing that? Let's just encourage them that let them extend it to the other areas that they need to, so that we can have an holistic approach.
Mr. Sorunke, with the bring in the health sector, now we are experiencing in Nigeria a lot of JAPA, you understand? JAPA every day, a lot of medical directors complaining here and there that they've actually nosedived from 300 and something doctors now to maybe 43. And now the withdrawal of the USA from the WHO in terms of funding now, is it not double blow? But you answer that after this short timeout. Stay with us on 90.5 FM. Have QS Ayoade, Sorunke, a public affairs analyst in the studios, doing justice to what we have brought to the table this morning. Now, Mr. Sorunke, before we went on that short, we're still looking at brain drain in the health sector that we're experiencing right now. A lot of doctors have left the shores of Nigeria, and a lot after planning to leave this country, Nigeria, for a greener pasture. And looking at it with the withdrawal of the United States of America from the WHO, is that not a double blow? And looking at our infrastructure in Nigeria, even our neighbor here, UCH in Adebanjo, the back and forth deficit, $450 million, 350, so amount of money. Let me know the specific this time around. About the money being owed as a result of powering just the health institution alone, just one out of all. So is that not blows upon blows upon blows in the health sector? What should we be looking at this point in time?
In my opinion, whether we want to look at this as a brain drain or a brain gain, I think is a function of our reaction. If you are saying it's brain drain, look at the foreign and the remittances from these Nigerians that have left in the last few years. It has increased even our forex that has come into the country, whether we like it or not. But the point is, what is our reaction? A lot of Indians have left India. Did it become a brain drain for India? A lot of Chinese have left China. Did it become a brain drain for China? Nigeria is the most populous African country. If Nigerians are leaving, what is our reaction? That is exporting our human capital. Can we produce more? Can we begin to look at producing more health professionals? Can we begin to look at, having more health training facilities that will train health professionals? To me, that should be our reaction. Because those people that are going, they are being exported. They are adding to our export products, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not. And many of them, if you go to many families today, you realize that some of those families are actually being funded by those people there. Some of the families in Nigeria today are surviving because of what they get from some of those guys that have left. So when you call it a brain drain, we are only looking at it from a perspective. The federal government cannot call it brain drain when they look at the forex that is coming in from them. Even though they will come on here and tell us it's brain drain. But what about those gains? The families that are making money from them, will they call it brain drain?
Brain gain. This one is brain gain.
So when we call it brain drain, I differ a little because it's a function of our reaction to what is happening. Let's produce more professionals. If we are exporting professionals, if that is what we do, there was a time Brazil was exporting footballers and they were making money from it. So what stops us from doing the same?
Okay, let's open the phone lines first of the morning.
0803 437 9453 and 0815 032 Also, this morning you have the privilege to watch us live on our Facebook and our YouTube page, Open Radio. You can as well drop your comments there and we'll take them. Now we have our first call this morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you
Sincerely
sincerely for joining us.
I'm calling from Morocco. I want that the whole Africa need to continue to praise what we call the common man in Africa to continue to praise the president, the American president, for taking a bold one, saying the truth. Because we have been saying it since. What we have what will we take and take us to that level that America is doing. Look at, for example, look at the way the cost of running government in their area. Look at the cost of running government in their area. They are taking care of common man. That is what they are. That's what they do. What the Donald Trump is not doing. Instead of using their resources to take care of the world. Look at this. The 4%, 15% from America, 4% from the India, where they are getting more money. They are borrowing from their affairs. What is the implication of that? So we need to, it is good, it can continue to do more. We need more. Because when we do the budget, we are saying the whole world, we go to the whole world to say 20% of your budget should be on net, 20 people.
Hello, Hello, are you still there, sir?
Yes, I'm still there.
Okay.
You continue to use your what we call court of running government. You continue. Where do you get that? You look at the analysis you are talking. More than population of more than something of they have about 150 agencies. We have about 1,000. We have 1,000 political shops. We have 1,000 clubs. Where are you going to? Look at the way you American they have what you call the president get. Only three for the American and the five. We have 12 here. We are facing resources. We are present our resources. That it is good. We need to go. The church will come back again more of that action. So that the people are at home, the African people, they will come back home and sit down and look at their self to their people, taking care of their people. Instead of they sit down to sit down. Yeah, they have, and they continue to tell you all the world.
Thank you very much, sir.
So that's the people are talking at home. That is good to be good. If you want to thank the job for doing that action, it's good. We need more of that to put our leaders on their toes. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much,
sincerely.
sir.
We
Like
appreciate you.
0803 437 9453 and 0815 032 0226.
003-437-9453. Now, Mr. Sorunke, let us now look at the way to prevent this adverse effects of the United States. Okay. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Good morning, students. Ayoade, Sorunke.
Good morning, sir.
I am Sorunke calling from the shop. The summary of my view is that you see, if what do you know? If you looking back at it, it's the world. However, Nigeria, you see, Trump has been able to win the second term because of the vote from the evangelicals. You know, on two issues, the LGBTQ issue and the legal immigrants. Otherwise, Trump would not have been able to win this election. And many Nigerians, many Africans also voted for him. However, what he has done now is to teach us a lesson. We have the resources here in Nigeria. We have all what we need to manufacture drugs in this country. We have men who have the brain, who have the knowledge. But it's because of that leadership, this is a lesson for us that we should not be suicidal about it. We should fast, tighten our best, and make sure that we do the right thing here at home. But the problem is, can we get the right leaders to do that? Look at what is happening. Look at what China happening to Trump's policy. Look at Canada reacting to Trump's policy. We should be able to say, yeah, we are able to stand up on our own, look inward, and develop our country. That is somebody of my contribution. It's all this, that's what the statistics that we are going out. What is not contributing. But the point is that we should shift that here. Hopefully, I don't know whether we are going to be able to get that. Trump is also trying to promote to get Nigerians and now Africans that they need to work on their leaders. They need to work on their leaders and get that good government. That's what I think I can take from there. I think that we need to.
Thank you very much. Thank you sincerely. We appreciate you. 08034379453. Your reaction, Mr. Sorunke.
Let me just quickly review. Submitted their budget. I think maybe Islamic studies or something like that. And they were saying that you have the revenue that they generated in a year, I think was about 400 million. And what they remitted to the federation account was 40-something million. So they were asking of what need, and their budget is over 5 billion or so. So they were now asking of what benefit is this? What value are you adding? So if that is the way we do our budget, do you know that we can actually trim that down, put it to exactly what we need in that sector, if we need it, and release the rest to the health sector? So, I mean, there are a lot that can be done.
Now, let us talk about patriotism by our leaders themselves. Sometimes when they have this health challenge, they don't disclose in Nigeria, but over there, they lay it bare over there. Let us talk about patronizing, because sometimes there was a strike that was embarked upon by the Doctors Association, the Medical Association of Nigeria, in Abuja. When the chairman was interviewed, the anchor asked that, what will be your recommendation? He said, when will there be end to strike and all this back and forth in the health sector? The man said, and I quote, that until
Politicians start using the facilities.
Start using these facilities. When I see them at Gwagwalada, I see them in Ijayi, I see them in different hospitals, local hospitals and health centers. That is when we see reforms in this health sector. Do you think that is actually possible in our dear country, Nigeria?
Whether it's possible or not, it is the politicians that will be able to answer that one. But if they really mean well for this nation, I think that is the place to start. And it's not just about the health facilities. Let their kids also go to the universities here. There will be less strike in our universities. There will be funding for our education. But when, you just take your kids out, in fact, there was a time a politician had, what do they call it? This appendicitis issue. And she traveled out to go and operate. And they said, here, they will operate it for you. And it will be successful. But will they be willing to come and operate it here?
So they're bought it, because sometimes they will want this.
Even the flight ticket going and coming alone, not even the cost of the operation itself, it's enormous.
Now let us take a look at this decision by, and I hear it that some foreigners are coming back to Nigeria to have their operations done. Now they question Nigeria and they attribute it maybe to the affordability compared to what it entails over there. Do you think we're actually getting there? Is it a signal that our health sector we're getting there?
I think to a large extent we have a lot of good hands in our health sector and good brains. But I think the challenge is we've not taken the full advantage of the National Health Insurance Scheme. And I think that is where we are missing it in the funding of our health sector. Because if we are taking full advantage of the National Health Insurance Scheme, all gainfully employed workers in Nigeria put something into that scheme, I think we'll have enough funding for our health sector. And people are saying that it's cheap. Maybe our health facilities. I had a friend that came all the way from Port Harcourt to do an operation, a heart operation for his kid in a FMC here.
In Abeokuta.
Yeah, and he spent so much, but he said it's cheaper for him.
Well, another caller on the line.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Doctor, thank you. I appreciate the presenter and the moderator and the guests in the house. Sir, I must agree with you that Donald Trump should be left alone to do his things the way him and America feels best. I only hope that one day we'll have leaders that are very passionate about our own personal affairs, irrespective of whose cause is good internationally. Now, talking about the flight of doctors in Nigeria, Anilo, with an eye specialist, once told me that his colleagues were asking him, what are you still doing in Nigeria? That Auntie, when millions of money Saudi, that was the way he said it. So the pay is also handsome, the facilities are there, the environment is enabling, and only young, if you have had the opportunity to be attended to in hospitals outside Nigeria, when you come to Nigeria, you will have depression when you get to our hospitals. And it is not as if we do not have. Look at the kind of hospitals, the monies I found by Desani Madrid is said that could produce. That is just one person. And even there are so many things that we need to have around that will suffer within the states, the interstate interstate to get. For instance, even university clinic in South Africa has MRI. It is an advanced way of getting to know the situation in your body other than X-ray.
Okay.
So in Nigeria, up till now, rarely, except those who are inspired, you will meet an orthopedic doctor that may not even tell you that you need to take dynamic X-ray. They will be filming you from the back, and that will not solve any spine issue, except it's done all over, lateral or dynamic. So there are so many issues, and now we have our doctors. Number 2 in the world. That was like some years back. I don't know now. Now, who are those that are making it, that are giving the South Africa that position? Ghanaian doctors, Nigerian doctors, and a few of their own people. And finally, we now have, maybe that's a good omen, I wouldn't know. We now have Nigerian doctors that are based outside, that are coming back home. So, operate people. There is a leader hospital in Maryland, Lagos. Their mission, their vision, that they want Nigerians to stop the tourist attraction, the medical tourism. So they have brought their team here. But between you and me, Nigerian doctors operate there. The people who should be operated upon will have been anesthetized, or how do I call it? And the patient will not see the person that operates and even before the person come out of that doctor has left.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Nigerians.
We appreciate it.
Where do we go from here, sir?
Thank you very much.
Curious, your reaction, sir.
Where do we go from here? I think we have said most of it. It's just for us to improve our efforts. I mentioned the issue of the National Health Insurance Scheme. If the National Health Insurance Scheme is actually functioning, you have a pool of funds that you can deploy. And it becomes even easy for you to go for some of this health treatment that is needed. You don't have to, cut your pocket to be able to get some of this treatment. So, but the reality in Nigeria is that most times some of the health insurance schemes that we operate, to get to some of these health facilities, they don't even have the drugs.
Even the way they will be sending you around, if you want to pay for this so amount, you move from one place to the
and
other.
like he said, we at times complain about the reaction of our health professionals here. I just mentioned it here. If you have a doctor that has to attend to about 250 patients in a day, by the time he's getting to the 100 patients, pressure is already setting in. Fatigue is already setting in. And if a patient now comes and becomes sarcastic, you think the doctor will not begin to react. It's human.
But I also look at the attitudes of some doctors. There was a time a patient was actually fighting and querying a particular doctor that when he got to their consulting room, that they were watching YouTube. And the patient is there waiting to be attended to. So let us look at that. And then on the other hand, what do you think government should be doing in terms of giving attention to the traditional medical researches in Nigeria so that we can have our own rather than depend on imported?
That is a little bit dicey, and I will tell you the reason why. If a traditionalist comes with a solution, we'll have people that can check that solution and confirm whether it's authentic or not. But the reality is that we will be willing to give credit to that traditionalist. Or is it the professor that does the research that wants to put his name on what the traditional? I think the missing link. Some of these traditionalists have realized that when they bring some of these things, they take it from them and they don't give the credit to them. So in most cases, they are reluctant to release some of these things that have been working even in our traditional health institutions in the past. So until we are able to manage that and ensure that credit goes to these guys, they have their name, patenting, and they also have whatever financial credit that they needed to get from such. I think we'll be able to get some of them coming up.
Quickly in 30 seconds, please. Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us.
Morning.
My name is Debo Kobidera. I don't think America is Africa and countries like Israel, like Pakistan, but UK. There are times America all the justice of UK to stay and remain in their country on because of the issue of disease. So if the number is not coming out, tell people that the passing of the village, where is the notion coming from? I don't think it's able to manage it. I don't see the reason why you have to do that.
Thank you very much. Now, yes, Sorunke, as we are wrapping up this conversation this lovely morning about our health sector, it will sound funny, but it is a direct question. Will it be out of place for the United States to ban African leaders from seeking health care in the US so that they can put their house in order on the African continent?
That will not be possible because you are going to cut off the income that will come to America as a result of that. So no country will cut away income route. They will encourage it.
Bring
So
their
it's like for the leaders to think straight and realize that they need to keep their money within their system. So it's not for America will never do that. No country will do that. When the royal family in Saudi were coming to UCH, did we ban them from coming? And they were bringing their foreign currency to us. We were accepting it now. So we need to improve and get back to that time that we were. And people were coming to Nigeria for medical tourism. We need to get back there. And we have what it takes. It's just for us to put on our thinking cap and do what is right. Put in the necessary infrastructure and let us get going.
We must say very big thank you to our guest this morning, Mr. Ayoade. He's a public affairs analyst and also a quantity surveyor who has shed more light on this discourse this morning. Also, want to say very big thank you to everyone that contributed to the program, to all that called and those who tried reaching out. We say a very big thank you to all of you. And this morning, we want to say a very big thank you to the editors in the newsroom, Adebanjo Wahab and Bisola Oludotun, and also many thanks to Folake Chueton, who has been the lady behind the ICT.
The ICT personnel this morning, they were smiling from behind the scene.
Our studio manager this morning is Samuel Odunleye, and this is a production of YBC Shodepo. I am Emmanuel Adebanjo, wishing you a pleasant Tuesday.
Once again, we want to sincerely appreciate QS Ayoade. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
The pleasure is mine.
And we wish you all the best in all your undertakings.
Thank you.
My name is Temitope Babalolaand. Please do stay with us on 9.5 FM as we bring to you the editorial review. And at the top of the hour, Ujumori, we come to your listening delight. Stay with us on 9.5 FM. We love and appreciate you.